Welcome back to the podcast, everyone. Today I'm with a legendary producer based out of Seattle. He's been around for a long time. He's worked with all your favorite artists, from J. Cole, Snoop Dogg, Tupac from Beyond the Grave. He recently just put out a new project with previous guest Travis Thompson, and he also is in a duo called Tuxedo. It's my pleasure to have on Jake One.
What's up? Thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course. Let's actually start with the Tupac posthumous album. Is that how you say it?
It was the Tupac. I did a song called this is a long time ago. Amelaroo was on it.
Mm-hmm.
It was actually a dope song too. Resist the Temptation. Damn, it took me a minute.
I think you did two, right?
I did another one that was like on. It was a remix or something. I don't know. They're all remixes of something, but essentially that happened because this is when I was like really working closely with G Unit those days. And
because Eminem, he produced was there two After Death albums or only one? Because I know he produced one.
This was like I think it was on Pac's Life or the one after that.
Okay.
And Sha Money from G Unit was kind of helping with that album. So yeah, they put me in a studio in New York and just gave me a bunch of acapellas and wanted me to make new beats to them. And the Resist the Temptation was probably the best one. I remember thinking like, this actually works. You know, some of them were like, eh. And even like, you know, this is like G Unit time. So they were probably wanting to go for that. I grew up listening to Tupac. So I wasn't going to, I didn't want it to sound like a 50 song. That wasn't the goal. So I think I actually maintained the integrity of the record, which I try to do that, you know, when I'm given those opportunities.
Was that one of the first albums that was like a After Death type album, or?
I want to say, well, he died. Machiavelli technically was After Death, but yeah, then there was other albums that came out after that. It was definitely not in the first two.
Got it.
But yeah, it was probably the last one of all original material, I think.
And how did that at the time? Did that feel weird at all? Because I know there's still like debate now, especially with like Mac Miller or XXX Tentacion, where they're fucking like ringtone songs at this point.
I don't think we had the internet conversation in the same way to tell you what was right and wrong.
Got it.
I mean, you would hear certain things. You'd be like, yeah, I don't know if Yayo should be rapping on this song with Tupac. Like that seemed weird because I feel like one of them I did was like that, or maybe Spider Loc was on one. That was it. Just some of the stuff is too much for the moment.
Yeah,
and you know his music wasn't really for that. And this particular one I did, Resist the Temptation, was like probably before he even got signed, or his first album. More conscious Tupac, less, you know,
hit him up
Tupac. So, yeah, it was definitely weird. I mean, I've talked about this with other like friends of mine or even like my family. I'm like, when I die, just let it fly. I don't care. Like personally, I don't care. I want them to get as much money as they can.
Yeah.
Take care of themselves. And I think it's hard to like have that opinion unless you're the family. You know what I mean? Like, yeah, there's certain posthumous things you're like, okay, this makes no damn sense. But at the same time, listen to the original music. You totally could just do that. It's cool.
Because I've heard, I don't want to say any names, but there's like even some like legendary people from Seattle who passed away that I've heard like their families have like mismanaged it. So I guess that's like something.
I think it's always going to be the feeling from the diehard fans of anybody's stuff. I mean, Mac Miller was a homie of mine. I got songs with him that we made that never came out. I'm not like in a rush, like, gotta let everybody know me and Mac Miller did songs. Like, just feel sad that he's gone. You know what I mean? And I mean, shit, Nip. I mean, I've done a bunch of songs with Nip that never came out. And it feels kind of nasty. I don't know. It just feels dirty to look at it for my benefit. You know what I mean? Even all right, for instance, with Victory Lap, once he died and it blew up, kind of bothered me. Like I didn't really like that.
Yeah, that was weird.
I mean, I know when it was out and he was alive, he was feeling the love from it. I went to the show here. It was great. He was super excited how it was going. But when he died, it just kind of turned into something else.
Yeah.
And it just, I don't know. It's a little gross. And then, you know, we do have unreleased music. It's not on me to decide what's going to happen with it, though.
So as a producer that's been producing as long as you have, like, do you just have everything on like multiple hard drives, or how does that even?
I have many hard drives. I mean, a lot of times I won't have like the vocals that people did. If I wasn't there, I don't have them. I have all the beats for sure, but like, Nip would send me like just a text with a MP3 sometimes, or Mike and Keys would do that. So I got him that way. Or Mac Miller, I think, sent me a couple of joints like that.
Yeah. And so has it, since like you've worked with people so like out of state for so long, has it always been a mixture of like working in person and like virtually? Or
I'd say it's been like 80% not being there.
Wow.
For me. And that was, just the time I came along in music was when Pro Tools really got popularized and recording on the computer, even be able to put your beats on CD. So I could just send it out. They could do their song. I wouldn't have to be there. I don't have to like go through the 15 other songs they do that they don't like, or that pressure of being like, I mean, I've been in the studio with like some of people's heroes or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And it can be awkward if you don't have that personal rapport with them. So you're just like, you might get next. All right, that one. Then they might do something to it and it's not even good, And then like, do you have the power in the room to be like, nah, let's not do this anymore. So me personally, I'm not that dude. I'm not going to go in there and sell the dream. I might even make you feel the song is worse than it is because I'm not excited about it like you wanted me to be, So it's been a blessing for me to not have to go to the studio. I personally don't want to go to the studio with strangers at all at this point. I think I'm just all the way out on that.
Are you done like are you fanboyed out at this point for the artist, or how does that work?
The people I'm fans of to that degree are all people that made music before I was making music.
Got it.
Anybody that came along in my era, they're more of a peer. Even if I really like what they do, it's hard for me to groupie up in that way because I've been around everybody or got money. To me, I got money from them, which is even more, that's more important.
Yeah.
That's the ultimate respect. So, I mean, the people I'm like that level of fan, it's really not people I've worked with a lot of times because it's just stuff that happened before me. Well, I mean, I've been making beats since like the late 90s, 95.
Yeah.
So, all that stuff seems so unattainable at that point,
Would you say like people you have fanned out over are less hip hop artists and more into other genres, or because I know
it's mostly hip hop. I mean, definitely like in funk soul world. I mean, did I like got to do a show with Zap with Tuxedo and did a song with them, and they like what we do, and I have a personal relationship with the Troutmans. That's mind blowing because as a child, that's what we were listening to. So like, some of those things are just deeper than just like my work with them. It's like it just means something totally different to me.
For sure, and that's wild. Like you're definitely someone who's like an icon who's blown up out of Seattle. Were there other people that you kind of looked up to that had blown up out of Seattle?
Man, I won't lie. There just wasn't a lot when I was coming up. We had Mix-a-Lot. That was huge for the city. I think it was also, I think people don't really understand is when Mix-a-Lot came out with like Square Dance Rap and Posse on Broadway and stuff like that. It was on the radio first on K-Fox. So it was a local thing before it became national. And he was the first guy that you're like, oh, he's rapping about 23rd. I live off 23rd. Like that was nuts, and you might see him. I'd see him every once in a while driving by or something. And but like producer wise, there wasn't a template to do that. Funk Daddy, I remember Funk Daddy doing Sideways for E40, which was I want to say 94 on E40 in a Major Way. That's a classic song. I remember being really blown away by that. Like, damn, it's like somebody from here did a song on 40 that's like my favorite song on the album. That's incredible, and just like I'm sure it must have felt crazy for him to just go around the city and hear it blasting out of cars.
I bet.
Because that's what that summer was.
Yeah. And I've had a Supreme La Rock on. It seems like you guys have definitely different in parts, but have a similar story of like Seattle people who have moved to New York. And
right. Everybody left. I mean, anybody even made a mark after me left, right? The Business, I was really close with those guys. I knew them when they started. They moved to Atlanta, LA, and they did a lot of amazing shit. And people don't even know they're from here, right?
I had no idea until you said that.
They're from here. Both of them are from here. So shout out to Dow and Hen. And that's just kind of what it's been. For whatever reason, I almost moved to New York in like 2001. And I just got scared. I don't know. I was just too conservative. I just didn't want to struggle in that way. I wanted like a definite, and it wasn't really that at that time. So, I do think, I mean, I definitely was definitely a pioneer in that way of going about getting your music out of Seattle, because it just wasn't a thing at that point, at least for producers.
Right. So you've stayed in Seattle for the most part then?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah, the whole time. I lived in Oakland for like 1 year. When I quit my job in 2005,
wow,
moved to Oakland because I was like, let me just live somewhere else. I'll drive to LA. I didn't really want to live in LA. I don't know why. I just didn't. And I was there for like a year. That was when I was really doing G-Unit stuff a lot. Got like a big publishing deal, and then I was like, damn, but I want to buy a house. But I don't want to buy a house in the Bay Area because I don't feel like I'm gonna live here forever. So I just came right back. It was kind of ridiculous. Yeah. I was only gone for like a year.
Maybe got some inspiration up there, probably.
Yeah, for sure. Just got to see some different stuff. And then, but I also came back, and I'm just always going places too. It's not like, it wasn't until COVID happened I was like, damn, I'm actually here for the whole winter. This is weird. So I'm usually gone for a week or two here and there.
Yeah. What is that like then? Because I feel like a lot of people are seeing bigger producers or artists leave Seattle.
Right.
And think because there is times where like artists leave Seattle and just move to LA, but like if the staples like you or Macklemore, like they live in Seattle. So do you think there's like something that draws you back?
I think if you got that shit, they gotta see you either way.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like if I moved to LA. Like, I do think if I moved to LA or New York in the early 2000s, I would have probably done twice as much, which is kind of crazy to think because I did a lot. But I just would have had more access to certain things, and I would have been on the ground floor of some things that I didn't manage to pull off from here. But in the end, I had a thing that everybody couldn't do, so they had to fuck with me. Yeah. And that to this day, that's what it is. That's the thing that I managed to do, which I don't even necessarily, I was going for that. It just shook out that way.
What do you think that is that it makes you stand out?
I think beats I make aren't really, it's not, you wouldn't know if I made the beat in 2005 or 2023 a lot of times. It all could be from the same time, but it all sounds good. Whereas like a lot of people are doing like the sound of the moment, and I've dabbled in some of that, but like that's not what I'm really good at. So like when Drake wants like a hip hop record, there's only like 6-7 people he can call for that. Right. That have made ones that he liked, right? That are still doing it. So, and it's the same with Cole or whoever it is. There's just not that many guys that have made this kind of style and made it popular. Right.
And do you follow
in modern pmes?
Do you follow trends though? At least pay attention.
I'm always changing what I'm doing. Like, I got my little trap beats. they let me do the drums on a trap beat recently. It's pretty funny.
Hell yeah. Have you paid attention to like the reemergence of pop punk at all though? I
don't pay attention, man. I'm not gonna lie. I don't pay attention to pop music or anything rock. It's never been my thing. Got it. So like, it could be the biggest thing in the world. I've never heard the song unless it's just playing, out and about. I've really been funk, hip hop, R&B since the beginning. That's just what I've been into. So got it. And I know a lot about those things, but yeah, I couldn't tell you what the third song on side B of Nirvana's album was. I'm sure I heard it. I just didn't know it,
Damn. So you've never really been drawn to
I wasn't
as
into
a Seattle
none of that
person.
shit.
Wow.
Nah. And I have family that was, close to a lot of that. I have an uncle that was in bands during that era and knows all those guys, and my aunts in that scene. And it just wasn't my thing. I was more like, nah, why isn't Ghetto Children getting a shot? Yeah. That's what I was thinking in those days. So yeah, it's weird, there's definitely was that hurdle like, oh, but you guys do the rock music in Seattle. It's like, well, not everybody does the rock music in Seattle, And
like you found your tribe pretty soon, it seemed like, in Seattle. Like how you were meeting like Supreme and all those guys. So like how old were you again when you?
I met Supreme when I was 16 or 17.
You found your tribe. That's wild.
So like, but I grew up on my street. One of the members of Vitamin's crew, Tribal, lived there. Me and him were close. We were friends. We were like doing little pause tape stuff before he even got with Vitamin. I went to Garfield my freshman year, so I saw Vitamin. We were all blocks apart. Yeah. And Supreme was just older than us and had already had experience. with the record collecting. I mean, he was just a guy with that stuff, man. Like one of my best friends I used to breakdance with worked at this store.
Damn, you were a breakdance? I didn't know that.
Oh yeah, I used to build a windmill and all that.
You like.
I had windmills. Don't sleep.
Amazing.
I mean, that was all I cared about at one point, right?
Yeah.
Tagging and being able to do a windmill. That was about it. That was a good 2 years of my life as a kid.
And you tag what? I have some of my friends do that too. Still
everywhere.
Wow.
And I had really hippie parents that embraced this shit. Like my dad was like, yeah, right, spray paint in your room. It's cool.
Did you spray paint in your room?
Yeah, it was still there until my dad passed in 2015. It was still in the room.
Oh my gosh.
So yeah, I mean,
like, can you tell people your tag, or is that secret?
No, I mean, I haven't tagged in years. I mean, this is like the 80s.
Yeah.
Like,
I
had a bunch of tags. I had a tag. One of my tags was Nice, Nice. What was my other tag? I mean, I was tagging like Tron and like 84 when I was like 8 years old, because that was the hot movie, Tron. My first rap name I used to tag a lot was Young D, because that was, my last name's Dutton. I used to tag JD before JD the producer happened, and it was JAYDEE. I probably stopped tagging when I was in high school. I don't know. I didn't like the feeling of like, ooh, should I get in trouble? It wasn't that serious to me. I wasn't like, there was dudes that came along that were bombing from like Seattle to Vancouver and shit like that. I was never that dude. I do really like right now when I go around Seattle and I see all these like pieces like that. I like the more old school bubble letter style. And it's really dope to me. It kind of looks like the cities in Europe with that kind of graffiti.
Hell yeah. My friend Carter, I guess you could see, I think he wants people to know that he's super into that. And like, if we're walking down the street, he'll be like, oh, I know that guy or that guy, or like.
See, I'm so old. I could not tell you who any of them are at this point, but like, this is the other thing. Like that was like, there were certain dudes that were tagging in the 80s that were everywhere. There's this guy named Ski, SKE, maybe SKEE. Anyways, kind of not really a dope looking tag, but that tag was everywhere.
I want to know how people do it on the fucking like train, like hanging from the train track
right
bridges.
Or they got these new things where they like they're like doing it with paint cans and shit. I don't know. They've taken it to some other tiers.
At Carter's house, Macklemore, I think it's his welcome sign. Macklemore sprayed his welcome sign, which is pretty funny. That's so you were you played in the All-Star game?
I played in the Champions of Change basketball game that they had, which was, I guess, 3 weeks ago at Key Arena,
crazy.
Climate Pledge.
Yeah, Climate Pledge.
Yeah, that was a trip.
Things are changing.
I only got to play like 5 minutes. Gary Payton had me on the bench, buried. But it was an amazing experience.
That's cool. Yeah, because you posted a picture on the Jumbotron.
Yeah,
that's wild. So like after a time, like does like the Seattle music committee find the biggest people in Seattle, or how do
that one that happened purely because Mike Bennett is my boy and he just asked me to play in it. Like that's just really nothing deeper than that. Like I'm sure half the people had no idea who I was. Some of them did, you know, but like it was just cool to me because I grew up going to games at the Coliseum and stuff. So like I just got to be on that floor was a trip.
And do you still play basketball like just for fun?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm still out there. I'm still playing basketball. I get like the text now. It's like the 40 and over league. You should come on tonight. I'm like, damn. I'm like, yeah, you're probably right, but shit. Man.
That's funny. That's cool though. I like how there's like still like community bonding with like.
I mean, most of the people I'm friends with in Seattle on the music front, we all play basketball together.
Okay.
Or I met them from that, for sure.
So you probably have like a super strong like support system here in Seattle and everything.
Yeah, I mean, I've been here so long. I can, I run into people I went to elementary school with. Like not all the time, but it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. So spending time in New York as like a Seattle guy, what was that like? Was that like pretty inspiring? Like, did you have some like crazy stories?
I mean, New York was always the mecca for us. Like that's where it all came from. And I'd say when I first was getting my start, in the music business and just that's where all the labels were. That's where they were making all the records. So that was kind of always my goal is to get there. So like early on, kind of like the older generation of A&R guys that were also producers just took a liking to me, like guys like Dante Ross and Riggs Morales and Reef, Rob Tulo. So, you know, it was like a big deal for me to like go up to their office, you know, go up to G Unit with Sha Money, who was my manager at the time, and like drop beats off and was like, oh, there's Lloyd Banks. Oh, there's, you know, Busta Rhymes, you know, whoever it is.
Yeah.
To see that in person it's just something doesn't happen here. Right. And it's not like I was like, you got to listen to my beats. I was never going to do that. That's not me. But it just, you know, just being in the mix. And then when I started getting the reaction from the people out there, I'm like, oh, I can compete with these guys. They're not whooping my ass. You know, like sometimes you don't know if you're in a small city like Seattle, especially hip hop wise. I didn't really know, besides me, Vitamin was the only other dude I feel like I was chasing or competing with because, and he was whooping my ass on the beats for a long time. So, you know, I didn't know if I was just good for Seattle or good for the world, you know?
So you just had to like go out and like test it.
Go out and test it. I mean, I went to like this music convention they used to throw called Gavin in San Francisco. This is probably 96. And it's still tapes, like cassette tapes. This is before, you know, you could press your own CDs and stuff. And I probably bought like 20 B tapes and I got like 10 callbacks from what I gave out. And that's how I got my first manager.
Dang.
High Tech had called me from that. A bunch of different people, you know, and like, and then it just made me be like, oh, maybe I got some shit. I'm not just good for Seattle.
And when did you figure out this is like something you wanted to do as a career? Like by the time you're going to events?
I believed in it until like mid 2000s, honestly, because I didn't have anybody to look at and like, oh, this person got rich by making beats. There's no way in my life I saw it do that, you know? So it wasn't until I started getting on stuff that was like selling records. I'm like, oh shit, I can do this, you know? Because at first the goal was just to make a song that would play on KCMU Rap Attack, you know? So like, or just to get your song on a record.
Yeah.
But yeah, once 2003, I did the John Cena theme song. I did a song on G Unit's album, or maybe that was a year later. And then De La Soul, Rock Cocaine Flow. Those were the ones where I was like, oh, I'm like, I can compete, you know, and there's money to be made doing this.
So was there like ever like a mindset where it was an actual leap of faith? Where you're like, fuck, I don't know if there is going to be another record super soon, or were you?
It's like, always like that.
Got it.
This is the part of like being, you know, like I don't really have a crew. I'm not like tied to anybody. I'm close with certain people and certain artists, but like they can make a record without me just as much as they can make it with me. So like I feel like I'm always having to compete with the world, and I got to be better than them. I can't just like, I'm not in the studio and they're not just using the beat because they like me. Whereas there's definitely people that have that thing going. So
like I've heard you even talk about like, obviously Metro is fucking dope, but like those type of guys were like, I get it. Okay.
Like, yeah, I mean, Metro him or Southside. Like, you know, I did a lot of stuff with Southside. That was, I feel like another career I had where I was like not doing the drums and I'm kind of just coming up with the music, but it got me crazy commercial success, right? But I never met Future. I wasn't in the studio with him, but I probably got 5 songs on him, you know. That's wild. My name's in the credits, which is all that matters to me. But Southside was the one in there with him. And, you know, it's just a different thing, you know, like I'm more like a hired gun, you know, like Tuxedo, yeah, it's my group. I make the decisions on that, but everything else, I'm not really making the decisions, you know? Right.
So with that, so you have like, you still do Snare Jordan, right?
Snare Jordans, like drum kits and stuff, yeah.
So, and you have like so many amazing like production credits. And has there ever been a time where you've been more specific on who you work for or work with, or have you always been just kind of open-minded for that?
A lot of times it's just leaning into what's working. Like a big crossroads was like 2015, 14, kind of had like a certain kind of beat I was getting off a lot at that point. I'd done Drake Furthest Thing and I think one on Cole's second album and some other ones that were in the same vein. And then the sound kind of shifted and they weren't really going for those like big snares no more. It just wasn't working. And I happened to be doing a session with Tory Lanez at Interscope, and I ran into a friend of mine who's an A&R Dash, and he wasn't really managing Southside, but they were close. And he was like, man, give Southside some of your beats without drums on it. And I was like, at first I'm like, but why would I do that? Like, I do drums, you know what I mean? Just myself, that's what I'm thinking. Like, DJ Premier didn't have a dude that did the drums. He did the whole beat. You know, anyways. I happened to, you know, I had some stuff on me, samples I had made with my boy G Coop. Big shout out to G Coop. And 2 weeks later, he was like, yeah, we got one on Future. And I was like, oh yeah, I see people talking about him. I don't think I had heard any of Future's music. Like it just wasn't, you know, I'm a hip hop guy. Like that was a different thing. I grew to really think he's dope, but I just didn't know, right?
Did you ever hear Racks on Racks when it first came out?
I heard that, but
I did not know that was Future though when it first came out.
I mean, I heard like those songs playing, right? Just in the world, but I don't think I'd ever listen to one of his albums.
Right.
So the first song we did with Southside was Percocet and Strippers. And that ended up being on a big ass album. And like, then I was like, oh shit, maybe I need to do this more. And then, you know, I did Looking Exotic for Future. I did there's another one I did on the Mask Off album. I got the Keys for Khaled and Jay-Z and Future. And it just was kind of off to the races doing that. And then at that point I'm like, well, I guess I'm not just doing like Jake One type hip hop beats no more. I'm doing something else.
Right.
And at the same time I was doing Tuxedo as well. So like I kind of strayed all the way away from like what I was known for at that point.
But it seems like you're whether you was purposeful or not, like you worked with people who were like in a trajectory to like be different and like stand out. Whether
man, some of that shit was just luck, man. I'm not even gonna lie. It just was luck, or like, you know, it's just, I think I was good at like picking dudes I thought were dope to work with. Like Mike and Keys were little homies that I knew before they were working with Nip or any of that. And I just thought they were dope. You know, like one of them was in Big Tune. I think Keys was in Big Tune. And once I started making the stuff without drums, where I'm playing more and having other guys playing, I was like, I'm just going to give this to everybody because it just increases my ability to get songs off. So I'm thinking like, oh, Mike and Keys, they work with a lot of people. Take all the samples, do what you do. And that's how we got, I mean, I don't even know how many Nipsey songs we did, a lot.
So you're never like, I see this early Kendrick, so I want to work with this guy.
Man, I will say with Kendrick, I really tried to get close to that, and that was part of me being in Seattle. I think if I would have been around, it would have been a different story. Kendrick, Schoolboy, I just thought they were dope. They were my favorite new rappers I had heard, and this is probably I think Q had the tape. Fig Get the Money or something like that. I just thought that was really good. I'm like, this is a different version of, this is like some new hip hop shit, but it's young. It's not old and like overly cartoonish gangster. It was different.
Yeah.
And I met Kendrick around that time. I met Q. Q was Kendrick's hype man actually at that time.
That's wild.
Met Ali. And yeah, I mean, I was sending him beats, and like, even on the second album, To Pimp a Butterfly, like Kendrick had reached out to me, recorded some stuff to beats I did. It just didn't make the album. I even heard a couple of them. So like, sometimes it just don't go your way. You know what I mean? Like this is just, but I do think if I was in LA for that, because everybody else I was around are the guys that produced those albums. You know, Cardo, I'm pretty good friends with. Dahi, I'm really good friends with. THC, all those dudes are my homies.
Hell yeah.
And what I thought was dope about them is they had some of the same stuff that like me and DJ Khalil or Just Blaze or that era of guy was doing, but it was a different bounce to it. You know, Mike and Keys is part of that too, where they updated and made it a little new. And you know, it was cool to see that. And then I just never would have thought it would have won on the level it did or become what it was. Because, I mean, people don't really remember pre-Kendrick, there was hella different rappers that were like, this is the next guy from the West Coast, and none of that shit worked. And I got roped into working in a bunch of that shit, and it didn't go nowhere. So like, it was still like a little guarded, like, is this shit really gonna go? We were also in that weird time where before streaming, where people were just downloading everything, and it's like, yeah, just do this free beat for this dude, and they get all the money from everything that comes from it, and you just get your name on it. Yeah. And that just always seemed kind of weird. I mean, I did some of those, but like, it was kind of weird, you know? Yeah. It's hard to get that enthusiastic about that.
Yeah. So wait, how long has co-production been around then? Has that always been a thing?
Man, I think there's been co-producers the whole time. Dudes weren't getting their credit. This is another, I hear old dudes that are my age and older complain a lot about, why is there 15 dudes on the beat and blah, blah, blah. And what really is the case, so if we go and listen to your song that you made in 1994 and we credit all the dudes that wrote them samples, it's going to be 15 fucking producers on the beat. Let's be real. So it's no different. I think it's cool that more people are getting their name on the record. Shit, get your name on there. You did something, you know? There's also dudes that don't do anything and they get their name on records, and that's been going on forever too.
You've got some stories of that too.
That's been going on forever. So like, none of this shit is new. You know what I mean? Like now, you know, guys are, you know, there's the loop thing, which I do think I was one of the first to do that for sure. You know, giving people loops, and that's how I got a bunch of big songs. But it just it lowered the barrier of like entry, because there's a lot of guys that can't really play music, but they can program drums. And there's guys that can play music that can't program drums. So like we had this meshing of talent, and it came with a new sound.
Right. Is it always like are you like a mega rock star if you can do all of them, or is it still sometimes best to focus in on one thing?
Man, I was kind of cool at just being the dude doing loops, and then after people started liking my beats again, and I was like, nah, I'm doing the beat again. Fuck this shit. Like, or I might use somebody's loop and put my shit on it. So like, I don't think there's any right or wrong way to do it. Sometimes I do want to just make the beat by myself though.
And you've never focused on like being like a rapper?
Nah. No, I never rapped on stage in front of nobody. Nobody's going to find that footage. I mean, I definitely rapped on songs with homies in, you know, early days, but not like, you know, this is like holding the mic, you know, live recording to a cassette player type shit, not like in a studio.
So how does that, is it so, do you know who Injury Reserve is by any chance? They're like a sick, like, they're like a production. They were like a production group. One passed away, so it might be 2 people now or 3 still. I forget.
Okay.
But like one produces, one's like a rapper, right? But I think they switch off or something.
Okay.
But they were at Numo's maybe like 2 years ago, and they had this crazy set where like the room was all black, and they were behind this like see-through like tarp.
Damn.
And like you just saw the guy pressing like a MIDI pad and like making the beat, and then there's like smoke and stuff, and you just saw their like silhouette. It was dope. But and it's because like they're a production duo, and it's not
right.
So for when you're touring, what is that? Are you DJing? Are you making the recreating the beat on stage, or how does that work for you?
I mean, I don't really like with the hip hop stuff. For instance, I did this this beat battle thing, which is really just, I did it with Just Blaze because he asked me to do it. Like, I didn't want to go against him. Like, his discography is not fair. Like, we're homies. Gene Brown is our homie. He's the record dealer. He's like our drug dealer, basically. So I just felt like honored that he brought me out for that. But it's essentially us just playing, you know, the classics we made and stuff like that, and people going crazy to it. I don't know. I'm not like the stuff the way I make beats, I can't just recreate it on the spot. It's not really like that. Like what I'm doing, it's just a little too complicated. I would need way too much to go on. I don't even think I'd be able to do it. I do think there's a lot of like, it's some Milli Vanillian going on with some of these like live producer things where I'm like, I don't know what you're actually really hitting that is playing live.
Yeah.
Like maybe you're hitting a snare and a kick. Maybe you're not doing all this shit at one time. You can't do the drum live and play the bass line live at the same time.
Right.
And chop the sample. You can't do it. Just not enough hands. The octopus might be able to get that off.
Right.
So it's I do think it's really cool that like producers have a bigger name now and they've branded themselves to become stars, and they just get money to go up there and play their shit.
Yeah. Because
the rappers ain't doing nothing but playing their shit and jumping around anyway. So why wouldn't the producer be able to do that?
Yeah.
Get your money. You know what I mean?
That's true.
Most of my touring is with Tuxedo, and I actually got to play keys live and shit, which was terrifying, but now I got that down. So, I don't know. I don't even DJing. I don't really like DJing that much.
Mm.
I'm just kind of over it at this point.
Dang. So, but did you used to DJ? Like, how did you?
I definitely DJ when I was younger, and I still DJ on occasion, but I never really been interested in playing what the average person wants to hear at
right.
whatever party. Like, we'll do a Tuxedo DJ set, but you're coming to hear what we want to play.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, it's already set that's what we're doing. I'm not going to be your iPod up there, like, play Bad Bunny, whatever it is.
Yeah.
There's a million other people who could do that. You know, I was talking to a homie of mine, I'm not going to say what company, but they're, you know, these DJ softwares and stuff like that. And it's like, man, there's 500,000 people DJing actively right now. Like, go get one of them. You know what I mean? That's not what I'm doing.
Yeah, fair enough. So how did Tuxedo and Jake One, like, how did each of those names come to be?
Man, Jake One came about because I did one of my first mixtapes in, like, I don't know, 94 or something. I just, in my I was going to go with Young D, but I was like, nah, that's a little too, like, Intimate Records, Bay Area. And my music didn't really sound like that. So I don't know. Was
it going to be YUNG or?
No. That wasn't a thing back then. It definitely wasn't a thing back then. But yeah, I don't know. I just, there was KRS-One, so I just did that. It was lazy.
Okay.
Tuxedo was all Mayer Hawthorne. That was his doing, because I didn't really want to wear a tuxedo all the time. Every time we perform, I would not have signed up for that. I didn't even think we were going to perform. So, like, right. It was smart, though. He knows what he's doing. That's why he makes those decisions, and I don't.
What do you think of Suit and Tie? Is that like your guys' like anthem?
Man, you know, it's funny. Like, it's all right. I don't know. I didn't love that song like that, but Timberlake's dope. Clearly dope. I mean, he's definitely like a blueprint of, like, you know, a white dude doing funky music that's like doesn't seem like cringy. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
That's fair.
He's definitely one of the blueprints of that.
So what is that like working with like someone who's in a whole different state? Is it hard to like connect, or is it?
Nah, what's dope is we met each other on some hip hop shit. So, like, he wasn't Mayer wasn't a singer when I met him. So we still all have all the same references, you know what I mean? So that's kind of really what makes it work. And we kind of offset each other's strengths and weaknesses. Like, I can start a million things and not finish them, and he just loves finishing shit. So it's kind of like, you know, he's got more of the musical theory. I'm just more productive than him on a numbers basis. You know what I mean? I'm just gonna make more shit.
How many songs do you think you make in, like, let's say, like a month?
Like beats?
Yeah.
If I'm trying, I might make like 20 beats in a month, you know. But out of those that are like special, I don't know. Like, a lot of that's just like on the rapper to make it special, you know, like the song that's made around it.
So I always wonder how artists like Lil Wayne, for example, how he continues to make new music when, like, I feel like you've rapped everything you can rap. I do love Lil Wayne, though, so no shade to Lil Wayne. But, like, for a producer, you're making more music and samples than an artist can say in their entire catalog. So how do you keep that fresh?
It is tricky at this point, because I really have been making beats for like 30 years or some shit. So I've been making beats a lot longer than I was alive before I was making beats. So it's weird, man. I mean, I take breaks from it. Like, there's sometimes I won't turn on the equipment for weeks. I'll just be like, I'm not doing that right now. Like, I'll get to it. It's just about finding some new technology, angle, sound, one little technique that I'm doing that's slightly different that makes it interesting to me. But there are times I'm like, damn, man, how many times I made this fucking beat? Like, that's what they want, you know? And I'll have to do something within it to make it more interesting to myself.
So if people buy like your drum kits, are some of those going to be similar to like other people who've bought the same drum kits, or is like,
you know what's crazy? I thought, all right, so when I first did it, I thought like, oh man, people are gonna make beats that sound like me, but I don't ever hear anything that sounds like something I would do. I hear people using my sounds, and they've been on some big records, which is cool.
Yeah.
But I just have my own sensibility with that stuff that I don't, you know, it's right and wrong. Like, it's right for me, but it's not necessarily always going to be right for everybody else.
And do you have like, every time you make a sample or something, is there like a memory attached, or like, can you?
No, I'm not gonna lie. There's certain songs that and even beats that I'd have no memory of making. Like, sometimes I'll go in and pull up beats I made in 2015 just in my Pro Tools, and I'll be like, when the fuck did I ever start this? I don't remember this at all.
Damn.
I just don't bounce it down or finish it. Or even like some of my biggest songs, I don't really remember the act of making it. You know what I mean? Like it was made one day, and then I put it in my Dropbox and sent it out.
Fair enough. I do like that you do the YouTube channel though, where you break down some. That's smart.
And that was, the YouTube channel was just purely a vehicle to sell Snare Jordan, and I didn't realize what I was doing was selling myself at all. I had no idea. And when I meet the younger generations, like, oh man, I love your YouTube channel. And I'm like, damn, I forget that's what drives, the world right now. It's not, because to me, I'm only caring about what somebody's discography is, or did they make songs that like, I'm like, fuck, I wish I'd have made that beat. That's what I judge like people for being dope on. And it's kind of different now. It's more like there's like a million dudes that will be on YouTube or IG and it's like they only make beats in like 45-second clip of like, you played the drums, you played the bass, you played a wind sweep, you played a oboe, all these. There's so many of them. And I'm like, it's pretty good.
Yeah.
But at a certain point, that shit don't even stand out. So in the end, it's still going to go back to the songs,
Yeah, that's a good point too. That's kind of like, so like I was telling you off camera, like I work with a lot of comedians.
Yeah.
And I guess social media has had its pros and cons for every art field, because I guess there are like social media producers at this point.
There's a lot of them, and I don't know if it offends me, but it bothers me that like people are selling how you should be doing something and they don't even have success. And this is any field, right?
Yeah.
So like if a dude is on there trying to give me tips about how to make it in the music business, I'm like, but you ain't made it though.
Yeah.
So how are you trying to swindle all these kids into thinking what you're saying is right?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And you're selling some bullshit on them. Like if you had the key, you would be fucking doing it yourself.
Yeah, 100%. That's what's going on with like Instagram comedians too. Like some like venues will see them and think they can like sell out.
It's a totally different thing. Like, I mean, there's guys that have like 30 million streams on a song, right? And that song is kind of driven by like fake playlists, not necessarily that they're fake, but they're autoplay type situation. It's not like a user generated, I'm selecting your song. So they don't really have a profile as an artist, where there's artists that got like 2 million plays on a song. They're selling 1,000 tickets in a city.
Yeah. It's weird too. I feel like sometimes plays don't even matter, because sometimes you could still be in rooms with like executives or other big artists or producers.
At a certain point, you got to put up some sort of numbers, though.
For sure.
It should all connect at some point. It doesn't always, but in the end, this is what I do love about streaming, is that the people are choosing the music. Like, and I feel like for my career, it's been a huge benefit, because I was always the dude making like a song on the album that wasn't a single. People were like, oh, I like that one, but it wouldn't get service as a single, or you couldn't really have an analytical way to look at it and see that shit's popular. Like, I've had songs that weren't meant to be the single, and then it just blew up on streaming, and they're like, oh, fuck, I guess we got to do a video for this. This wasn't what we thought. Yeah. And it's gone the other way, too, where I had ones that's like, this is the single, and then it flops, and then another song blows up. So,
is there like a average you would say that people should shoot for before they approach maybe like a manager or a label or anything? For like,
I don't think there's any... At this point, there is no rules to any of this shit. It's really get in where you fit in. Fire off your beats to as many people as you can. Let whatever superstar producer take most of the credit and get his tag on it. If you got a piece of the song, that's what's important. Because people are going to look at the record and be like, when I see a song and there's 5 producers and I don't know 2 of them, I'm assuming they did the beat. That's just what I think, Not always the case. But that's what I think, because I'm like, why the fuck would they be on it then if they didn't do the work?
Yeah. So what's the difference between like production credits and like writing credits? If you look at like, I forget who showed me. I think it was one of my family members. I think it was my stepdad actually. He was like, have you ever looked at Justin Bieber Baby? For the credits for that? It's like 100
writers kind of thing.
Yeah, it's like crazy.
Well, there's like songwriters, right? Especially in the pop world, like it's really driven by songwriters because they somehow are good at making these things that work, you know?
Yeah.
And they look at it on some real science shit. It's not like, it seems stupid, like, oh, this is such a basic song, but there's formulas that work. So, you know, there could be a songwriter on it. There could be a dude that played the initial chords on it. And then a producer came in and produced around that. In the traditional sense of like, you know, Quincy Jones, I get this a lot when I hear people that don't make beats be like, well, I'm like Quincy Jones. And I'm like, but you're not, because Quincy Jones can play a trumpet and he can read a chart. You can't do that. You're a dude that picked a beat and got somebody on it, right?
Yeah.
That's cool too, but you're not Quincy Jones. Let's be real. So, you know, there's that kind of producer that's bringing the whole song together, getting the artist to put the best performance forth. And then there's, you know, the dudes that are making it happen are the ones making the music. It doesn't happen without the music.
Yeah.
So whoever made the original beat, you know, whoever played on, you know, if it's got a loop on it, then you're gonna have more names on it. If it's one dude made it, then it's gonna be less names. I mean, I love like, you know, I have a homie, Brian Morgan, who wrote and produced a bunch of the SWV songs.
Oh, hell yeah.
In the early 90s. And he's a trip because he's probably the only person I know that has a #1 on the Hot 100. And you go to his house and you look and it says Week SWV B Morgan, only name on that bitch. Just doesn't happen that way very often. You know what I mean? He wrote, sang it, all of it. Do you know what I mean? Produced it. That's just not normally how it goes. You know, it can happen that way in rap because it's just a little more simple, right?
So someone who's been in the industry for a while, can you break down for up and coming artists like what points are?
Points are what percentage of like the net profits on a song you make or album or project. So if I have 2 points, that means I have 2% of the net receipts on this entity, song, album. So theoretically every 6 months, you know, Warner Music Group, whoever it is supposed to pay you that 2% of what it's made. And, you know, there's a lot of fuckery with accounting and, you know, it's music business, right? There's also like a part where if an artist spent too much money making the record, you could have a really successful song, but it doesn't recoup because they spent hundreds of thousands, $1 million, whatever the hell. And it doesn't get to the money making phase somehow on paper, even if it has made a shitload of money.
Yeah.
So points, you know, and this is the really cool thing we're at right now is that you can self-release your music. You get all the money that's being made from it.
Yeah.
If you can get that shit going, you get all the money. You know, I did 2 songs, one each on the last Brent Faiyaz projects.
Wasteland, right?
Wasteland, I did Rolling Stone. On Fuck the World, I did Been Away. And it opened my eyes to the whole game of owning part of the master and how much money's generated from these things. I just really didn't have any idea. Was more old school thinking like, let me get my fee, my publishing like that. And that's still great. Yeah. But when you see what the master's doing, you're like, fuck, man, that's why the labels are so rich.
Yeah.
That's why they're making all the money.
Is he independent or something? Or?
He is 1,000% independent.
Really?
Yes.
Holy shit.
So what he did that's really like, he kind of ruined it for other artists I'm working with because I'm like, if I'm not getting part of the master, I'm not doing this no more. I mean, unless it's a big artist signed to a big label, I don't have a choice. But independent artists, they gotta come off part of that master. Like I helped create this. If you're not gonna pay me that outlandish fee, then I need to see it on the back end. So we're all successful. You know, we all share in the success of the song.
So how often would you say is like an up and coming producer, like an artist might just want to play them like a flat fee instead of giving them a point?
Now I'm not really sure how it's working, but I mean, I think I know for me, like I did, you know, like WWE was basically like, you either just take this money or you don't do John Cena's theme song. So like at that time I was making $12 an hour. So I was going to take 30 grand because wouldn't have got it. So we probably wouldn't have got the song if I don't take the money. but they probably made like $5 million on that
That's
song. So
wild.
like they won.
Yeah. Has John Cena ever wrote you a letter saying
I talked to John Cena multiple times back in the day. I haven't talked to him in a long time, so yeah, I don't know.
So how do you feel about being the a reason why he was like a rapper? Like, are you?
Well, he was already rapping before me, so
True.
like my manager at the time, Walt Liquor, met him at KMEL in the Bay.
You encouraged it, I would say.
Yeah, I mean, I think I did 6 songs for him. I think only 3 came out, but maybe 4. I just remember when I heard the theme song, I was like, this shit ain't bad. Because, it's one of those expectations are really low.
Yeah.
You're like, he's not supposed to be good at rapping. Like, nah, but it's like, this shit's kind of all right. So like to see it live on this long is insane to me. That's the one my daughter's like always like showing me some meme. Like she just thinks it's funny.
That's funny.
I'm like, that shit ain't funny because we're not making no money.
Dang. So you have a whole family. That's odd.
Yeah.
How is that like being like full-time producer and touring? Is it hard to manage family life?
It was a lot harder when my daughter was young to go on tour and do stuff like that because I'm the one that takes her to school. Picks her up. She's older now. She's in middle school, so she can get on the school bus. It is possible for her to do that at this advanced age she's at. She don't really want to because she's spoiled, but I can make it happen now.
Yeah. And does she realizes like what you do and like?
Yeah, she knows
cool.
I'm not like the regular dad or whatever. She don't really care though.
Yeah.
Like it doesn't really, I don't know. I think all kids are kind of like, I was like that. Whatever my dad was into, I didn't like it either. So she thinks it's cool on some level. I'm sure that we don't, we're not normal. I have a lot of time that I can give her and be around her.
Yeah. Know? Do you ever does she ever talk about like a favorite artist of hers and like you feel like
I
should work with
she
that person?
only likes anime music right now. So like she doesn't like any popular artists.
Okay.
Like it's crazy. The other day, there's this thing called Vocaloid. Do you know about that? Vocaloid's this like weird computer generated auto-tune style of singing where you play the notes. Like my daughter's actually filthy at music. Like she can play viola and piano pretty well already. Better than me. She reminds me of this constantly. So these like J-pop songs and anime songs, what they do is they'll play a melody on keyboard and then you choose a character and then you write the lyrics. So I think we're going to try to make a song this summer. That's going to be our summer project.
That's amazing.
We started already. It's pretty comedy.
Dang.
So yeah, I mean, that's the kind of stuff I'm doing.
So, and what is it like living in Seattle in a time where like when you were growing up, like Cap Hill and Seattle, that's where a lot of artists would be. And now everyone's kind of being pushed out of the city due to like,
it's sad, man. I mean, most of my friends are just gone from the area we all grew up in. We just lost one last month. I'm not going to say who it is, but yeah, one of my good friends took off, headed south on me. So like, damn. I love just driving around and seeing the homie watering his lawn or something. You know what I mean? Like that makes me feel grounded, but I get it, man. It's expensive as fuck, It's a trip, man. I don't know. I just never would have seen this. And I think when you grow up here, you kind of take the natural beauty for granted and stuff like that. As I get older, I appreciate that stuff more. But yeah, I don't know. It's so far gone at this point. I don't really know what can change.
Yeah. Yeah. Do you, were you ever part of like the Seattle music scene, you would say, like working with like Nacho Picasso or any of those guys?
Man, I think I did a beat for anybody that came up that made any kind of noise. Not every person that rapped in Seattle, but if you made some noise, I probably gave one a beat to you for free. I definitely did some songs for Nacho at one point. It just never really made that kind of difference in my career. It was just something, I just didn't want something to come out of here and be big and me not have nothing to do with it. You know, I just felt like that would have been weird. So yeah, I worked with Macklemore before he got popping. That's another one. Nobody ever saw that shit coming. He didn't see that shit coming,
You remember Grinch? I've had Grinch on the show.
Yeah, Grinch is my boy. So yeah, I did songs for a lot of people. I think at the stage we're at now, like, I mean, a 17-year-old rapper, man, that's like just a totally different thing for me at this point.
Yeah.
But I'm happy to see like some of the younger kids I know that are, you know, my friends' kids and stuff making beats now. So they'll be the ones that do that, you know.
But like you never felt like you had to like do like the Seattle circuit to like get popping, like you, because I guess you
it didn't really exist when I was coming up. It was so underground at that point. Like by the time we had Blue Scholars and that stuff was making noise, I was already established. So like, you know, those guys were coming to me for advice. So
oh wow, that's cool.
I mean, all of them have it this, you know, at some point, and or a producer is like part of whatever. I've seen it all. So I just never planted my flag for anyone because I'm just not really a fake kind of person to just act like I'm riding with you if I'm not. You know what I mean? And that's kind of why, you know, I'm cool with putting a little effort into it, but I'm not. You have to think like in 2005, I was 30 years old already. You know what I mean? So like somebody at 17, I wasn't gonna just drop everything I was doing and just do that. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So, and that's the same way to this day. You know what I mean?
And so how did the like Travis Thompson
Travis happened. I met Travis when I want to say I saw his video for Horchata. Did he have a song called Horchata or something like that?
Maybe.
Early. And I was just intrigued by him. I don't know. First of all, he was repping Ambomb, which I just coming from the CD, it was like, damn, somebody's repping Ambomb. Like we're in a different place now. Like I just thought it was cool. Like it had always kind of been limited to these certain areas, and that he was like prideful about that, I thought was cool. So anyways, he gets signed. I co-produced on like one of those albums, maybe both of them, I don't remember. And I was with my boy Wu Sang Management, and he was like, one day he was like, man, would you do a tape for Travis? I'm like, yeah, if I don't gotta go to the studio, if I could just give him the beats, sure. And that's really where it started. So then I just started sending him a bunch of beats, and he'd send me songs back, and I'd be like, I like this one, you know, kind of just let him, because you know he's a self-starter. He knows what he's doing. He's a professional. You know what I mean? Like it was a trip. I saw him perform the other day, and I hadn't seen him perform in a long time, and I'm like, oh, you're seasoned now. Like you know what to do. Yeah. You know, like he's on his shit. You know, so it's just cool to do something with somebody from here, you know, and like, and make a little noise with it. And, I'm probably going to do more, you know, like,
and he's independent too, which is a cool thing to see.
Right. And that was
recently independent.
And that was part of the reason why I did it too. Cause it just kind of like, I like the idea that we can do something. And if it does blow up, we all benefit equally. You know what I mean? Like, as long as you don't got me out here working too hard, because I don't got it in me at this point, man. Like I some days I'm like, I'm about to retire. Like I really feel that way. So, and some days I want to compete, you know what I mean? But as soon as it starts turning into a job, I don't want to do it, you know? So it's been cool to, you know, see the reaction from it. It's been really good. So
hell yeah. Yeah. And were you involved in like any of the features, or how did those come together?
I got Worthy on the song for him.
Did you have a project with him?
Me and Worthy have done some joints. Worthy's kind of Northwest, really. Like he's from Vancouver, so you
Vancouver,
know,
Washington, or Canada?
Canada.
I feel like no one represents.
Damn, yeah, Vancouver, Washington. Yeah, he would just be from Portland. I think. South Portland. Yeah. So yeah, he got on that for me, and Eric was definitely Travis's boy, and Travis got Logic on the other joint. So
that's so cool.
Yeah.
And have you worked with Logic before that at all? Or?
You know, really oddly, on Logic's first album, they sampled part of a beat I did for the Physics.
Oh wow!
And that was the first time that it happened to me in that way. So yeah, I guess that's one where I'm a writer on a song, but I wasn't a producer.
Damn, that's funny.
Yeah.
And are you still signed to Rhymesayers, or?
I mean, I'll still do stuff with them, but I'm really like not signed to anybody. I don't have a manager. Like I make all the plays for me. Yeah. Like I'm a grown adult. Like I've been doing this long enough. Like I don't need somebody else to make calls for me. Rhymesayers is great though. I mean, Rhymesayers is how I had the connection with MF Doom. And a bunch of different things.
That's wild. Have you worked with Ciroc at all? I've had her on the show, and I know she's signed to
Ciroc. Nah, I haven't. She came along a little after I was doing a lot of stuff over there. I know Ali has told me about her for sure. Though I checked.
Damn, yeah, I want to have because he has his own podcast. Have you been on
Brother,
his show?
Nah, I haven't, man. I don't know why he hasn't brought me on his show, man. 'Cause he knows I'm gonna talk too much shit to him. Like we have that kind of relationship. So.
Yeah.
But that's my boy. Like that. And there's some people like it's funny. There was a video of a dude that went viral that was like outside the studio holding a sign like Gunna, I produced your song, something like that, right? Which I related to that, but I would never do that shit, right? Yeah. Me, I'm just like, hell no, like you don't need to know me. It's cool. Mm-hmm. Is my name on the record? Am I getting paid? That's what I'm about, right? Yeah. That's more important to me than being like somebody's friend. So like, there are certain dudes that I don't even make that much music with, but we're just close. Like Ali's a dude I'm always gonna like be close to. Freeway, me and Freeway are always gonna be close.
Fuck yeah.
Me and Freeway are finishing Stimulus Package 2 right now.
Hell
so like,
yeah.
It's only been 13 years, but we're going to give you the part 2 finally.
That's awesome. That's super exciting.
Yeah.
Dang. What? And are you working on anything with Tuxedo at all? Or how?
Tuxedo's new album is being worked on right now.
Wow. So you just stay working.
I mean, it's weird because there are days I'm like, I don't fuck with it, you know? And then some days I buckle down and work. So it's just kind of, as I feel it, that's where I'm at this point. And luckily, I've made so many songs that I don't have to get one to survive, right? I don't have to sell a beat to do this much.
That's a blessing.
It is, you know. But I mean, I've been doing this for a long time. I had a lot of success, so it's just kind of like it's the luxury that I built for myself with this. But sometimes I probably do need to be a little more hungry. I don't know. I go back and forth. You know what I mean? Yeah. Some days I'm like, man, I'm not doing what I should be doing. And then some days I'm like, man, fuck this shit. I don't even care. You know what I mean? So it's a weird, I have a weird inner battle going on within myself with that, you know?
I like what you said earlier though, like that it's important to have fun though. So as soon as
I have to turn all of this into fun, like, cause if it's not, I'm not doing it, you know, like it just ruins it for me.
And do you have any cool like MF Doom stories or Mac Miller stories even?
Mac Miller was at the studio in OK Hotel and we worked on Tuxedo 1.
Wow.
Which was he just happened to be, I think he did a show at Vera Project or something. And
wow.
He DM'd me and he came through. And you know, it's funny, like we were working on our shit. He didn't play no music or nothing. Like last time I saw him, was in LA at Alchemist's studio and he was working on the song with the Migos. And I was like, oh, I got to stay for this. This is weird that the Migos got a song with Al. I remember them being like, he don't even have auto-tune on his computer. So they had to hook up like another computer. And Mac was like, man, you know, it's fucked up. I never told you this, but like that time I came to the studio in Seattle, you guys didn't even ask me to play my music. And I was like, I didn't give a fuck about your music. I was like, I didn't even know you were. Like, how was I supposed to know?
That's amazing. Have you ever? What was his alter ego? It was like Larry.
Oh, Larry. Yeah.
Do you ever get?
He
Larry?
Was ahead though. I think like that's a dude that showed like he probably early on wasn't really making shit I thought was that good, but he got way better. You know what I mean? And he was dedicated to the craft. And I think he felt guilty for the success he was having, so he was putting on people he thought was dope. Like he used his platform to give other people a look, and that's what you're supposed to do. And
did you ever work on like production with him, like co-producing?
Nah. Even I don't know, man. Like even one, I don't know. I don't remember what year this was. Maybe a couple of years before he passed, he was in town and he had wanted to come through, and I didn't feel like making music that day, so I was like, nah, I don't feel like doing it today. You know, I should have, but like I just wasn't on it that day. I had something else going on.
Yeah.
So it's just sad he's not here. You know what I mean? Like, I just always looked at him as a little homie. I mean, another thing we did that annoyed the shit out of him, because that's just, you know, we're older. You know what I mean? It's like a hazing process.
Yes.
A homie of mine came to the studio that same day and, you know, introduced himself to everybody in there. And he's like, what's your name? He was like, Mac Miller. And my boy thought he said Max Miller. So I called him Max Miller forever after that. And I could tell he was like, man, I'm like popping. Like, why are you talking shit to me? Like it flips up at a certain point. He was big homie. You know what I mean? So it's kind of ill to see that happen. You know what I mean? I've seen that with multiple people. I'm like, damn, you're kind of the dude now. This is crazy. I can't really talk shit to you in the same way.
Yeah, that's so cool that you're like in control of like you're kind of like your music destiny and just your life though. That's.
I mean, I think I had to just become comfortable and just being me. Like anybody that's around me would tell you, I'm the same way around anybody. This is like superstar, somebody I don't know. I'm not gonna be a different person for anybody.
And when was the switch where like you decided like you maybe not have needed like a manager or be signed to like a label? Because when you're starting, you know, it's kind of like
that was everything at one point. Yeah. Well, once all the artists were coming to me, it just, I mean, once we got Twitter, man, honestly, Drake DM'd me, all these people, that's how I met them. So like I made songs that they liked. They were like, yo, send me something. And it kind of eliminated the need for the manager. It wasn't that barrier of entry that there used to be. And then like, I just don't like people telling me what to do about my music. Just me personally, especially if it's not somebody I think is better than me.
Yeah.
I'll live with Vitamin being like, nah, that ain't it. Because I just look at him like that. Like I respect his ear. But like a manager because most managers tried to make beats and they weren't even good at making beats. So they became managers, you know what I mean? Or they were rappers or whatever it is.
Yeah.
A&R people, it's all the same, right? So I don't really want to hear that from them. I mean, there are days I'll be like, fine, I'll just be a worker today. Like this is not about my ego. But like when it's about me making music that I care about, I'm not listening to nobody about that.
Yeah, for sure. That's fucking awesome. I feel like you're definitely an inspiration in Seattle and just like the music community as a whole in the world, you know. And so it's been fucking awesome.
I do think like I've had a pretty unique career.
Sure.
You know what I mean? Like just the different phases and all that. Like I would have never seen none of this coming. So
yeah, you would have made Tupac proud. This is sick though. I'm like seriously like checking out your interviews and you like being open about like making how you make beats online and all that. It's cool to see like your journey and see how like you've stayed connected with so many people. To hear that you're still kind of Freeway and having a project coming out soon. That's
hell yeah.
Awesome.
I mean that means more to me than anything because he took a chance on me when I wasn't anybody. So you know that's what you're supposed to do.
Hell yeah.
You know.
With that, is there what is some final advice they would give to up and coming producers, artists, creators? I
mean, I just think like, I know it sounds generic, but you just got to do what's in your heart. Like that's the only thing that's truly going to work. Like you can only fake the system for so long. Like if you're, I mean, and this, especially being from somebody from Seattle, if you're doing the same thing they're doing other places, you're probably not really going to get any traction. You just got to stand out. Like I always tell people, you got to be really bad or really good. It's just like either way.
Blueface, baby.
Blueface was so bad. That shit made an impact, right? Like, I mean, I was in the studio. I worked on Playboi Carti's first album. I co-produced a song called Kelly K with Southside. And I happened to go to one of the sessions because Southside, I just wanted to see him. It was in LA. And he was in there freestyling for 45 minutes. And I didn't know if that was the worst shit I heard or the best shit. I was lost. Like, that was fully like, I mean, this is what, 2017, something like that? And I just like, this is just over my head. And he came out the booth and he told me and the A&R that we're old. I didn't say nothing to him. I wasn't clowning his music or nothing. He was just like, you guys don't know. This is that young shit. You guys are old. You don't get it. He was fucking right.
Yeah.
He was fucking right. That summer, we went on tour for Tuxedo. Everywhere I was going, they were playing his shit.
Damn.
Just the unbridled joy the little kids had off of that shit. I love seeing that. Even if it's not music I like.
Yeah.
Like, that's always, to me, that's hip hop. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Damn, that's so wild. Fuck, man, you've been a great guest. I really appreciate you coming on.
Thank you.
Last second, too.
Yeah, thanks.
You know, with that, what is the easiest way for people to find you?
I'm Jake Uno on Twitter and Instagram. This Threads, I probably won't get on there. Only so much I got for all this.
Yeah, you're solidified. You don't need to get on Threads. I'm on Threads to hopefully go viral or some shit, you know. So you do you, man. You're killing it. So
thank you, man. Thank you.
Yeah. This has been the NAST podcast with
Jake Uno,
and we did it.